Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It is Hart, and today I'll be breaking down the Monday Night Football game between the Giants and the Cowboys. So if you're new to the channel, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell. Also, follow me on Twitter at HartDFS. I put up my PrizePick plays, fantasy football, relevant stats, DFS stats. As you can see, PrizePick plays went 3 out of 3. Clean sweep. That was fantastic. So if you tailed that, cash it. Great win there, 3 out of 3. And then in the main slate on Sunday, I pretty much won even. I told you guys in my slate breakdown that I was going to get very contrarian and go with Tom Brady. Unfortunately, a few of the drives ended in some turnovers with the wide receivers fumbling. Both Perriman and Gage fumbled twice on their drives, so he wasn't able to do much. He was 0.8% owned, which is absolutely criminal for Tom Brady, even when they were down wide receivers. Lenny couldn't do much. Dalvin got hurt. Lazard did okay. Gage did great, but had some fumbles that really ruined Tom Brady's touchdown upside. Perriman fumbled. Higbee was okay, and then Derrick Henry, very low owns, got 25. That was nice. And then Jaguars D did pretty good against the Chargers. So, I don't mind, breaking even on the Sunday main slate. And then, let's get into the breakdown. First off, this game is a 39-point game total, and the Giants are actually favored by 1, which is super surprising. So I think it's going to be a very ugly game. I mean, we just got through that Sunday Night Football game between the Broncos and the 49ers. That was terrible. That was so hard to watch. The Broncos are just god-awful at offense. It's super frustrating because I have Russ and a few of my fantasy football teams and a few different people like Javonte Williams and Sutton. And I mean, Sutton's been doing decent, but Russ and Javonte have just been absolutely struggling. It's super frustrating. But let's get into the slate breakdown. Let's go team by team. We got Dallas first off. CeeDee Lamb at the top, 10-2. Even with Dak gone, he still saw 11 targets from Cooper Rush, caught 7 of them for 75 yards. So firmly in play here. I wouldn't say it's a safe bet for him to get that many targets just because it is, Cooper Rush. This game he can come out and look terrible. He looked decent last game versus Cincinnati. But I do like that, he did see 11 targets that first game with Cooper Rush thrown to him. So don't mind getting there. If we see the snap counts, CeeDee Lamb basically played the whole game. So he's going to play the whole game. He's going to have opportunities. It's just if Cooper Rush is going to throw to him. It looks like he will. So I don't mind getting to him at 10-2. I don't know if it's safe enough to get into him as a captain. I guess it is. I don't mind getting into it. I'm always contrarian, so I like to play contrarian captain plays to try to take down the whole tournament. There is $1 million to first, so it is a big one. But yeah, I don't mind getting to CeeDee Lamb. I think he's like a B play for me as captain. Cooper Rush 9-6. Did decent against the Bengals. Now he's going against the Giants. So a little bit better of a defense, or not as good as the defense, I'd say, as the Bengals, and he should be able to do a little bit better than last week. I mean, he's not going to go out there and throw a ton. He's not going to get you a ton of yards unless he's having a fantastic game. So he looks like an okay flex play. I mean, if you're going to pick a wide receiver like CeeDee Lamb, it makes sense to have a guy like Cooper Rush in there. Zeke, 8-4, very cheap for Zeke. Last game he saw, 17 touches, had negative yards in the passing game. But if we look at the snap counts, he did see 67%, which was, a jump up from the first week, which we saw only 58%. And Tony Pollard went down. He went down from 55% to 39%. So it looks like Zeke is going to be the main running back for the Cowboys. He's not going to split a ton of time with Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard was more used in the passing game. If we look at the team targets, you can see that Pollard had 7, Zeke only had 2. So when Pollard was in there, he was running routes. So that's good. That's some good information to keep in mind when looking at this game tomorrow. Pollard should be more of like the third down back, the pass catching back. He still can get you that rushing upside. He can break off a big run, but with that price, pretty much the same as Zeke. I think Zeke is now a lot safer than going to Pollard. It'll be interesting to see how this ownership plays out for tomorrow's slate. But really like Zeke, a good amount at 8,400. I do think this game's going to be pretty gross, pretty ugly, according to the game total of 39. So I do think, the running backs are going to be firmly in play on both sides. But yeah, Zeke, like him a good amount at 8,400. I don't think he'll be too popular at captain. Do think people will still go to Tony Pollard, which Tony Pollard for me is just an okay play, 8,200. His snaps went down. He will see those targets out of the backfield. He did well, 55 yards, 4 catches, did get a rushing touchdown as well for 43 yards, 9 attempts. So he did do a lot when he was in there. But the snaps were down. So he only played 24 snaps. But as you can see, he was very, very productive in those limited amount of snaps. 9 attempts, 43 yards, and a touchdown. And then he also did only get the only red zone look for the Cowboys. The only red zone touch was for Tony Pollard. 4 catches out of 7 targets. I mean, the volume is there for Tony Pollard. Let me kind of backtrack. The volume is there for Tony Pollard, but the snap counts are not. And so it's one of those things that, let's say he doesn't, get that red zone touch, or let's say he doesn't break off, a few big passing plays. He's very limited on upside with, only 24 snaps, only playing 39% of the game for the offensive side. Like, that really, really limits your ceiling. I think he greatly outperformed that in that last game. You'd say Tony Pollard's only going to get you, 24 snaps, and you come out and say, yeah, he got me, basically 20 fantasy points. That's insane. That's insane. If he's limited to that amount of snaps again, he's not going to put that kind of output out. I guarantee it. So that's kind of why I do prefer Zeke. He's seeing the same amount of, a little bit more attempts. Not as many, pass catching attempts, but I do think he has that upside there as well. I do think they're going to rely on the ground and pound game. So I like getting Zeke over that. The ownership will probably flock to Tony Pollard. They'll see the stat line and they won't look into they won't do a deeper dive of the stats. Instead, that he only played 39% of the offense snaps, which was 24 plays. And they'll just see, Pollard's $200 cheaper than Zeke. And they won't realize that they only played 24 snaps. So a lot of the ownership will go to Pollard. Do prefer Zeke. Michael Gallup is questionable. It looks like he is going to play, but it will be interesting to see if he's on some sort of snap count. I would assume so that he is. So I don't think you should get there at 7,400. I don't think he'll be able to play enough. Do think they're going to ease him in. Noah Brown is viable. Saw 5 targets last game, caught all 5 for 91 yards and a touchdown. So he is operating as the second wide receiver. He'll probably be the third wide receiver / second with Gallup now in the mix. Dalton Schultz is questionable. He saw 4 targets, caught 2 of them for 18 yards before he got hurt. Did have a knee injury, so we'll have to see. He was a limited participant Saturday, but it was a walkthrough. So we'll have to see what happens here. That's pretty big news because he's a guy that commands a lot of targets. Good target share percentage goes to him. So 6,400, I'd say he'd be my favorite play if he is good to go and no snap count or limitations. But with that question mark, we'll just have to wait and see towards game time tomorrow with the news coming out on whether he plays or not. Cowboys D, I guess they're firmly in play. They only let up 19 to Tampa Bay when they did have their full offense week 1. Only let up 17 to the Bengals, who's a high power offense. So their defense is good, but the big question mark for their defense is Micah Parsons is questionable. I think he's got an illness. I think it's an illness, so that's big news because he's defensive player of the year candidate. He's really, really good. So that will be huge news if he's out. We'll open some things up for the Cowboys. So once again, keep an eye out on that. So follow me on Twitter. I'll keep you guys updated on all this injury news. But yeah, they're firmly in play as we saw this tonight with the Broncos and the 49ers. I think the Broncos defense was in the winning lineup. Very low scoring game. This one's expected to be very low scoring as well. So you can put a defense in there. I don't really like getting them, especially when they're 4,600 like the Cowboys. But if this game's ugly, the defenses will work out. Especially when you got Cooper Rush as a quarterback on one side and then Danny Dimes on the other. It doesn't look too good for the offenses in this game. Brett Maher, he's in play. Had 2 field goals last week, made both of them, 12 fantasy points. Especially if this is a slugfest, slow game, low scoring game. These kickers could be firmly in play like they were tonight. Let's see. That pretty much does it. If what's his name? Schultz is out, You could see, Ferguson come in, or maybe Sean. I doubt. I think Schultz will end up playing, but we'll have to see if they do. If he doesn't, I mean, you could take a shot on a guy like Ferguson. We'll have more news on whether who starts, who's the backup for Schultz. But as of right now, this early look, I think I'm just gonna hold off on looking through these guys. But there's not really much you can kind of take a punt play on as of right now. I'd just say stick towards the main, 3 guys of CeeDee Lamb, Zeke, and then maybe taking a shot on Pollard and Nola Brown. On the opposite side, we have probably the most popular play tomorrow will be Saquon Barkley, especially as a captain. I mean, he's pretty much the whole Giants team. The Giants wide receiver core is just depleted. There's nothing there. We'll take a look at the snap counts for the Giants side. Let's see here. 1 second. New York Giants. Saquon played 84%. Breida played 15% and only saw 11 snaps. I mean, it's pretty much all Saquon. We already know that. But when it came to the wide receiver room, Sterling Shepard played 88%. David Sills played 92%. Richie James 42%. Kenny Galladay just didn't play. And then Tony played 38%. The reason why this is, I guess let's finish with Saquon first. But, yep, Saquon, I mean, we know what we're getting from him. He's going to see 15-plus touches. He's going to see, probably 4-plus targets, if not more in this game. Especially in this low-scoring slugfest. They're going to rely heavily upon Saquon. So, I mean, the Cowboys defense is pretty good when it comes to just overall defense. I mean, they did let up 100-plus yards to Lenny, but then the following week to Joe Mixon, they were pretty stout. They didn't let up too many fantasy points. So, I don't mind getting to Saquon. He's going to be the most popular captain. I think if you want to get different, you have to put him in your flex. I just don't really see how this game plays out where Saquon's not at least in the flex. So he's going to be probably 30% owned captain, if not more. So I think I'm going to avoid that and just play him as a flex play for me. Danny Dimes, he does have rushing upside. I could see him, breaking out a few big rushing plays in this game, especially with the pass rush of the Cowboys. If Michael Parsons is, definitely in, do think Daniel Jones is going to have to be scrambling for his life. So he has that rushing upside. He can get you a rushing touchdown, the QB sneak or the rushing touchdown. Probably will throw it a decent amount. It doesn't have huge upside with the passing game, but it can get you a touchdown there. So I don't mind him. I'd rather get to him than Cooper Rush, honestly. Sterling Shepard going to be wide receiver 1 for the Giants. Saw 10 targets. As you can see, he played 88% of the snaps, 64 out of 107 total. Let's see here. Yeah, so I mean, operating as the wide receiver 1, I do think he's firmly in play. I mean, these teams are going to need to score. They're going to look to Sterling Shepard and Saquon to kind of lift him up. Daniel Jones and Sterling Shepard do have some chemistry over the past few years, so don't mind getting to him. Kenny Galladay, 6,200. As I said, we'll take a look at the depth chart for the Giants. As you can see, Sterling Shepard in, Sills is in, Richie James, Wan'Dale Robinson is out. Let's see here. Tony's doubtful with the hamstring, so it doesn't look like he's going. Wan'Dale already got ruled out. So if we look at the snap counts, Tony, Wan'Dale. So Tony, you're losing 38%. He played 28 snaps, so that's going to have to go to someone who's going to be, maybe Slayton, the guy they're trying to trade. Maybe goes to Galladay. I think they're just going to throw it more to Richie James, and they're just going to run Sterling Shepard, David Sills, and Richie James out there, and maybe rotate in Kenny Galladay or Slayton. It'll be interesting to see the starting lineup there, but I think I'd just still rather stick with Sterling Shepard. For me, I don't think I'd get to Kenny Galladay for 6,200. I mean, he could see usage bump with the Tony doubtful and Wan'Dale already ruled out, who didn't play last week, but he just doesn't look like he wants to play. I mean, he got his bag of money and he just hasn't put in any effort. So I'd totally avoid that. I mean, you could take a dart throw. Maybe he plays and he does well, but I think I'm going to, firmly fade Kenny Galladay. Richie James, 5,400, 6 targets first 2 weeks. Once again, firmly in play. I do really prefer the Giants offense compared to the Cowboys, and I can't believe I'm saying that because it's very, very gross. But, I mean, they're going to throw it, doesn't matter if they're down or up, they're going to throw the ball a little bit. Richie James is in play. Same with Sterling. Same with Saquon. So do like the Giants a good amount in this game tomorrow, even though it's going to be a very ugly game. Sills, wide receiver, didn't play the first game, saw 4 targets the second game. Once again, he's going to be in the mix. Him, Richie James, Sterling Shepard, 3 main wide receivers for the Giants. Graham Gano in play, as I said. Kickers are always in play, especially with this Giants team who just struggles to find touchdowns. Who else we got here? Giants D, I don't think I'd do it. They're not the best. I mean, they did only allow 20 points to Tennessee and only 16 to Carolina. So they've been holding people to a low amount of points, but I just don't think I'd get there. You really need a defensive touchdown. I really don't think the Giants could do that. Tony, as I said, is doubtful. Brightwell only saw 1 attempt. You don't really need to get to any of the backup running backs. I mean, if you want to take a shot on a guy like Breida, maybe he comes in and scores you that random touchdown, but don't think you have to do it. You could take a shot on Hudson. Maybe he gets you a touchdown closer to the end zone. But both these teams, they kind of just stick to their starters, and that's it. They don't really throw in these random backups when they get closer to the red zone because it's very hard for these teams to get to the red zone in the first place. So I think I'd just stick to the main guys. As I said, I think Sterling or Saquon Barkley, favorite flex play. I mean, for good reason. He's pretty much the whole team. I mean, my favorite captain plays on the slate. If Schultz is good to go 100%, I'd say he's my favorite captain play. He has that upside. Cooper Rush looks to him. I saw 4 targets in that game before he got injured, so he was going to lead, or he's going to be second on the team behind, CeeDee Lamb. I do think to get to CeeDee Lamb, he just does have that, that safe floor. Going to see probably, at least 6 to 7 targets, if not more, from Cooper Rush. And I'd say right now that's kind of the way I'm leaning towards those 2, and I'd say I'd fill in a little bit more of the Giants on the rest of the 3 flex plays for me. So if you do like the breakdown, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Do appreciate all you guys' support, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.